Hello everyone, this is Showtime 112. This is part 2 of our video about the 100-Hour War, a short conflict between Honduras and El Salvador which took place in July 1969. This conflict is special for being the last one in which piston engine fighters fought each other and achieved shootdowns. In the previous video, we described the background of the conflict, the state of armed forces of both countries, and initial air warfare operations. This included the first air-to-air kill scored by Major Fernando Soto Enriquez, one of the most experienced Honduran pilots. If you missed that video, click on the suggestion link. The shoot-down and death of Captain Varela delivered a heavy blow to already low morale of Salvadoran pilots. Honduran aircraft kept flying close air support, and in one case, they were extremely efficient against Salvadoran units which were ambushed and blocked by Honduran ground troops. Two Corsairs flown by Captain Aguirre and Lieutenant Rivera employed their bombs and rockets and destroyed many jeeps and trucks. They continued to strafe the Salvadoran positions, which resulted in the survivors fleeing the area. This is known as the Battle of San Rafael de las Mataras and is considered a major victory for the Hondurans. But on other fronts, Salvadorans were still pushing hard, and Honduran Air Force engaged most of their assets trying to hold them back. Salvadoran ground units believed that Hondurans were going to destroy the bridge over the Guascoran River in order to cut off the Salvadoran supply lines, so they requested support from the Salvadoran Air Force. At 2 p.m., two Salvadoran Corsairs flown by Captains Reinaldo Cortés and Salvador Ceseña headed for the area and tried to find Hondurans, but failed to spot any. As they turned back towards their home airfield, a trio of Honduran Corsairs was entering the area. They were flown by the same pilots which fought Salvadoran Mustangs that morning, Major Fernando Soto Enriquez, Captain Acosta, and Captain Cepeda. Their task was to destroy Salvadoran artillery, and just like before, Major Soto ordered his pilots to check their cannons. Just like the first time, those on Captain Cepeda's airplane jammed. The problem was later traced to the fact that some of the ammunition acquired from the UK were 1mm thicker than US-built ammo. Captain Cepeda was once again ordered to turn back, while Soto Enriquez and Acosta continued towards their targets. Major Soto Enriquez spotted the two Salvadoran Corsairs as they were returning back to their own airspace. Honduran pilots were now banned from entering Salvadoran airspace, but the Honduran flight leader decided to ignore that order and pursue the two enemy airplanes. He managed to approach unobserved and fired a burst of his 20mm cannons into the plane of Captain Ceseña, who bailed out. The other Salvadoran pilot, Captain Cortés, realized that they were under attack, and he managed to maneuver his plane behind Soto's Corsair. He even achieved several hits. Major Soto began his evasive maneuvers, but without trying to position himself behind Cortés, as he believed that his wingman, Captain Acosta, would take care of the Salvadoran Corsair. but after a couple of minutes, Soto realized that Acosta wasn't covering him. He made a quick, tight turn, and after several minutes of intense fighting, managed to damage the Salvadoran corsair and wound Captain Cortez. This made his maneuvers slower, and Soto finally finished off his victim. Major Soto then located the parachute as descending and made a pass, trying to see if this was his wingman, Captain Acosta. But this was his first victim, Captain Cesena. Soto's wingman, Captain Acosta, was observing the fight, but he had a malfunctioning radio and was unable to communicate to Soto that two Salvadoran Mustangs appeared behind him. He managed to evade his pursuers in a dive and eventually returned to Toncontin just after Soto Enriquez. After the loss of two more planes, the morale level of Salvadoran pilots reached a new low. Only two Corsairs and 3 Mustangs were now available. To make matters even worse, Captain Echeverria, flying an FG-1D Corsair, was shot down by friendly anti-aircraft fire. He bailed out over Salvadoran territory and was nearly killed by a group of civilians who thought he was Honduran. This incident once again proves that an angry mob is one of the least intelligent life forms on this planet. Honduran airplanes continued to fly successful close air support missions and significantly contributed to halting the Salvadoran offensive and forcing El Salvador to accept ceasefire on 18 July. Before this happened, Salvadorans attempted to resolve their situation by purchasing additional Mustangs on the civilian market in the USA and hire mercenary pilots willing to fly for them. 3 Americans responded to this offer: Chuck Lyford, Ben Hall, and Bob Love. The first 2 of them were experienced civilian Mustang pilots, while Bob Love was a Korean War ace. Before the American pilots were willing to fly combat on the 3 remaining Mustang IIs, they wanted to modify them. This included adding armor plates behind the pilot's seat, removing wingtip tanks, and adding improvised gun sights. This lasted for most of 18 July, and the American pilots didn't participate in the final clashes of the war. However, the ceasefire wasn't fully implemented until 20 July, and they managed to fly an eventful combat mission before that. Bob Love's airplane was mistakenly fired upon and damaged by Salvadoran anti-aircraft defense. Lyford later located what he thought was a Honduran fuel truck, so he strafed and destroyed it. It turned out to be a vehicle carrying drinking water for Salvadoran troops. Several Mustangs purchased clandestinely in the USA arrived to El Salvador, but couldn't be readied for combat before the end of hostilities. This short conflict, fought almost exclusively by World War II-era weapons, once again demonstrated that air power is the key element in modern warfare. Neglecting it almost certainly leads to failure to achieve desired objectives. The main source for this video is the book called The 100-Hour War, written by Mario Overall and Dan Hagedorn. It is currently out of print, but you can get it from the author in exchange for a donation to the Latin American Aviation History Society. You can find the link in video description. If you like this video, be sure to press the like button. Become a Patreon supporter to ensure the future of the channel and watch videos without ads. You can also join our Discord server, but in any case, keep watching Showtime 112.